Hi, good evening, folks. Welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm Shiloh, your host, and tonight we have Rick Becker on, and he's gonna discuss um, the measure that we want to try and get on the ballot for eliminating property tax this evening. So, with that being said, I'm gonna bring Rick on. There you are. How are you, Rick?
I'm doing great, Shallow. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. So, we were just talking a little bit about this elimination of property tax. And so if I do have some questions as we get going here, I'll let you know. But
Sounds good.
let's start it off. What's going on with the elimination of property tax?
Right. So what we have is a petition which has been approved by the Secretary of State that we can go out and get signatures, and it's a constitutional measure that we're proposing in this petition. So what happens is we need to get 31,165 signatures. Now we know that we need to get a lot more because I guess I can safely assume that they are going to scrutinize this very, very closely. I do believe probably that the powers that be, the establishment folks, they don't want this because they love having as much money to spend as possible. So they'll be looking closely to throw signatures out. We are going to do our very best to make sure that all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed and everything's on the up and up. Absolutely. So we are going to
Excellent.
try, instead of 31,165, we're going to try and get 45,000. And once we get the signatures and once they are validated by the Secretary of State, then it will go on the ballot in 2024. Depending on the timing when we submit the signatures, it could be on the primary in June of 24, or it could be on the general ballot in November of 24. So the timing is all about when we turn the signatures in. Um,
Okay.
so what this does is it changes the Constitution. And there's a fair amount of language in the measure. It's 2.5 pages. A lot of it is technicalities. Really, the first section, right off the bat, you read the first 3 sentences, you already know 98% of what the measure is. And those first 3 sentences say that starting January of 2025, no more property taxes can be levied. Not by the state, not by the cities, counties, anybody. They are no longer able to be levied. So levy, of course, means you implement a tax. So the taxes levied in the latter part of 2024 are going to be due in 25. Those that would have been levied in 25 would be due in 26. So no taxes levied starting in 25, which means nobody's paying taxes as of 2026, property taxes. Now, the 3 parts say real simply, number one, or I mentioned number one. Number two is that the state must replace all of the revenue that the cities and counties and so forth were getting in property tax as of the 2024 levy. So it's basically a 100% buy down, but it then dismantles completely the property tax mechanism. So buy downs in the past, the legislature has tried and they failed, and we knew they were going to fail. Anybody who understands the economics knew they were going to fail because you buy down a little bit, but then the cities and counties backfill, and lo and behold, all the buy downs and the billions of dollars the state has spent in an attempt to help us have failed and have actually backfired, and the net taxes are more than if the state hadn't tried to do that. So this is a complete buy down. Says, look, the state's paying everything at this point because the state has enough money to do that reliably, year in, year out, sustainably, enough revenue to pay for our taxes at 2024 levels. The third part is that it says the state is going to do that, but it is not going to intervene with any of the lesser amount of property taxes which are associated with bonds. So when you went to vote on bonding issues for your city or county, if your city or county chose to go into debt with bonding, you still need to pay those off before those property taxes go away. We can't have this measure interject itself in a contractual arrangement between a city and purchasers of the bonds. And also, it wouldn't be fair to sort of put on exactly even footing the biggest spenders in the state with the most frugal of the cities and counties in the state. So this makes a little bit more of an even playing field. So yeah, I mean, it's great. Now, as I mentioned, the state has to replace at the 2024 levels. So then what happens after that? Well, the state could increase the amount it replaces, but the intention is that, and I'm certain the desire for the state legislature, because they want to keep all the money they can to spend, is not to spend or replace more than the 2024 level. So the intention is that starting at that point, any amount that cities or counties need to increase their revenue because they have identified they need to increase their budget, they will need to do by other means. So whether it's a sales tax or a fee or an assessment, um, those are the ways that a city or county can do that. Now, people will say, well, then that's no good because then they can still tax me. And yes, this does not take us to magical fairyland. We still are going to be taxed. Um, and but by going to this mechanism and way of doing things, there are some really important things. Number one, the locals retain control because any amount they want to increase their budget, they are able to. In fact, they're able to more easily than property tax because the state has tremendous amount of restrictions on how you can increase property tax. So the cities and counties have total control on their future budgets. More importantly than that, the people of the cities and counties have more control because when their city or county wants to implement a user fee or an assessment or a sales tax, they have a voice. It's more transparent. They have more accessibility to it. They have more of a say. Think about what we have as a say for property taxes. We sit at home, we wait to get that property tax statement in the mail, and we see how bad we're taking it in the shorts. And that's the end of it. So there's very little recourse for citizens. So this actually gives more control. That the old refrain of the opposition in 2012 is this takes away local control. This actually gives more local control. So that's fantastic in and of itself. The other component is that even if we say, well, gosh, we still don't like the idea that cities or counties could raise sales tax or they could put an assessment or user fee on, at least nobody's going to get kicked out of their house. Nobody's going to lose their house or their business because they couldn't pay it. That's fantastic. The other thing about going to that model is when we look at how everything is crafted between the state and the cities and counties, the state is, you can say, detached in this model. They're dispassionate. There's no place for favoritism to take place, for special treatment, because they're just replacing. It will say in the Constitution, you have to replace at 2024 levels. There's no situation which, Fargo comes to Bismarck and says, hey, jack us up. We want more money this time, or take a look at our budget. We're trying to get more here or there. So that old refrain about, that the legislature is going to be in control of all the budgets, that's just blatantly false. It's not even remotely true.
Yeah. So I know that on your live the other day, you said that you guys weren't very far in this yet. Where are you at with that then?
So at this point in time, it's grassroots. I'd love to say we have an extra 400,000 to hire a company to get all the signatures, but we don't.
Right.
So we're totally relying on grassroots. And of course, since there's no paid positions, things aren't, as speedy. We're clunking along. I'm sending out petitions. I have people contacting me all over the place. So if you ask me how many signatures do we have at this point, I have no idea. I'm sure it's not a lot. I mean, I think the earliest anyone got started with signatures would be like July 3rd. I've gotten about 200 myself so far. And so we'll keep going. And so the whole point is, and it's kind of, it's expanding pretty significantly. I think, if we have 5 people or 10 people that were working on it last week, we're going to have 25 people next week, and we'll have 100 the week after. And
Gotcha.
I've got a little program that I think we're going to be starting here. We're going to have a website that'll be up in hopefully a week. And at that point in time, especially, I want to implement this program where we will have property tax champions. So if someone is able to pledge to me that they will get 250 signatures by the end of the year, I'll send them a T-shirt, a bright green neon T-shirt that says, end property tax and property tax champion. So it makes it easier for you to go out and be identified as gathering signatures. We will have this kind of a team of enthusiastic volunteers that are helping. And then we're also going to be looking for businesses that will be willing to put a little sign up saying, hey, this business supports the elimination of property tax, and you can sign a petition here. There is, by the way, Shiloh, we have to be really careful how we do it. When you have a petition, there is a spot for 45 signatures. That
Okay.
petition goes with an individual. It's not one of these things like, when you're running for office, you can just pass it around. You can put it out on the table and have people sign. For this measure, that person needs to witness the signature and ensure that it's legible and all of that. And they are the only person that can witness signatures for that petition. So, for instance, if a business is going to help out, what they have to do is say if they have a receptionist, that petition needs to be associated with the receptionist. It can't sit out. If another receptionist comes along, it has to be a different petition, that kind of thing. But it's these
Yes.
types of sort of, really, just good old-fashioned politicking, grassroots efforts that we plan to do this. And we have an entire year, if we need it, to get these signatures. We have until June 29th.
Cool. So being out and about, how have people taken it so far? I mean, what's
Well,
been your response?
so there's a good segment of the population that they just wave you off immediately. They don't even know what it's about. They just don't want to be bothered with what they assume is politics. So if we say, okay, those folks, we're not counting those. Here's the people that have any engagement or any idea of what this measure is about. I would say 3/4 are positive. The others, I think they just have a real negative, pessimistic attitude. Their approach is, well, good luck with that. That's never going to happen. It's like, well, yeah, not with that attitude. It's not gonna. But I would say 3/4 are all about it and saying this is great. And some will say I've had good conversations, but some will have reservations, but they are more than happy to say, yeah, I'll sign because this is not a vote. This is to put it on the ballot for a vote. And over the course of time between now and when it's actually going to be on the ballot, we have a ton of time to get more information out, to hear about the pros and the cons. I think it's on Wednesday. I'm going to be on KFYR, and I guess Representative Mike Machenbacher is going to take the con side for this. And so we're going to have a bit of a debate on radio there. So, yeah. So anyway, overall, very, very positive.
What do you think your top few questions are about it that you're
Um,
getting from people?
Number one question is, how are we going to pay for it? And it's a good question because, well, what's interesting. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but even if we had to raise other taxes, 100, to be 100% equal raised tax
Hmm.
place, it would still be a better system. It would still be better. But what it comes down to is we don't need to raise any taxes. The state has enough. I'm in the process of going through the budget that was passed real carefully and looking for all of the wasted money and the corporate welfare and all of that. And so when we add those types of things, plus legacy funds, which this is actually something legacy earnings should be spent on. The way the legislature has been doing it the last couple of years or sessions is they're spending it just on ongoing regular spending, or they're
Hmm.
spending it for bonding to go into debt more in the future, but you look at legacy fund earnings, you look at the corporate welfare and the wasteful spending, you look at Bank of North Dakota profits, you look at the Operation Prairie Dog funds that can be applied. You look at there is a lot of waste in higher ed, that's an interesting topic in and of itself. We're actually, well, aside from wanting the State Board of Higher Education wanting North Dakota taxpayers to pay for free college for Minnesota students to come here, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Uh, that's $17 million per year right there. But beyond that, we are spending between 50 million and 100 million to subsidize out-of-state students to go to our colleges. There's money, Shiloh. There's money everywhere. What's nice is that when the measure came through in 2012, we now have 10 years, 11 years of history to show that, you know what, all of those fear tactics that they used during that campaign about what would happen, we actually have the numbers for all of those years. And we can see literally we would have done fine without paying property tax. For all of this time, we needn't have paid property tax.
Gotcha. So what's your number two question you're getting?
I would say the number two question has to do more with the local control and not being beholden to Bismarck. You know, that the people are concerned about that. It's a very, I mean, it's a very, I think, easy answer, but people just need to hear it. You know, when the city, one of the ways you can look at it is the state has bought down property taxes to the tune of like what, 2.5 billion per biennium in each of these last couple bienniums. You know, no one lost any control there. You know, there everyone's happy with that. So this is just doing that, but doing it in a manner that, in probably the only manner it can be done successfully, which is a 100% buy down and kill the system. So then, and then any future budgeting is 100% up to the city and county. If they want to be frugal and not raise it and just take, great. If they believe that there are a lot of important things that they should be spending money on and they want to really jack up their taxes, they have that ability. But then, as we said, the citizens have a much easier ability to intervene, to object, to vote, you know, so on and so forth.
Okay. So Marvin has a question here, and it's more on how about eliminating big tax breaks to businesses from out of state? Oil just got a present from the legislature.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So there were a lot of presents from the legislature, and some are grants and guaranteed loans and things like that I call corporate welfare. Interestingly, some of the tax breaks are property tax exemptions or abatements. And so
Hmm.
property tax is well known to be extremely unfair. There are a lot of folks that are aware of all of the big business exemptions. That's how the state wants to bring businesses into the state, is by saying, hey, you can have 5 years, 10 years, or in the carbon dioxide pipeline week, you can have 20 years of no property tax. I would like 20 years of no property tax. That would be nice. But you know, that's not happening for citizens. It's happening for big business. And so what's nice about it is that when this goes away, all of the unfairness goes away. You know, it's an inherently unfair and immoral system, and it now suddenly becomes completely fair.
Gotcha. Yeah, like you said, there's been a lot of presents that the legislature gave us this year, so you
Yeah.
don't. I don't even know where to start.
Well, you don't
So,
have to look very far to find the waste. I mean, some of the things are shot. You know, the Theodore Roosevelt Library. I mean, it's just, I'm, like I say, I'm going through the budget. I'm making a list, and we'll be putting that out. And I think number one, it helps explain why we don't need to raise taxes, well, how the money is actually there.
Mhm.
Number two, it'll probably help rile people up to be a little more enthusiastic about supporting this measure when they realize how much waste is occurring and how much needless spending and how much um, supporting private business and giving money away to big business. It's nuts.
So let's talk a little bit on. Let's say we get this done.
Yeah.
Okay, we eliminate property tax. So what are we going to do then to replace it? Without, I mean, is it able? Are we able to do it? Because I know like different cities have different taxes on gas and your goods and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really want to say that we can raise those taxes. What can we do
But Shiloh,
besides that?
why do you want to raise taxes?
That's what I'm saying is I don't.
You're right.
So
Yeah, and you don't
what are
need
we
to.
gonna?
Okay,
So
so
what are we gonna do then?
okay, it takes $1 billion. According to this plan, it takes $1 billion. The state legislature will need to replace the property tax to the tune of $1 billion per year. Okay. Um, when you look at the fact that you have Operation Prairie Dog at 150, now again, I'm going to have the exact numbers down, but you look at Operation Prairie Dog at 150. Okay, so now you're at 850. You look at Legacy Fund earnings at 200, so now you're at 650. You look at, let's just take 50 million of Bank of North Dakota profits. Right now, what you're at 600, did we say? Um,
Mhm.
I can easily find 600 million of wasted spending. I haven't even gone to the higher ed budget yet. We can definitely drop 30 to 50. Well, we could spend a lot more than that, 50 million there. And you start taking out, you look at 100 million that's going to the private industry for burying carbon dioxide. We don't need to do that. Those tens and hundreds of millions add up to so much more than the 1 billion that's necessary to replace. That's so yes, do we need to do something to replace property tax? Yes. The two options are increase taxes or spend less. And I should say spend differently. And the true answer is spend differently. Yes, would California, Illinois, Minnesota raise taxes instead? Yes, of course. Would North Dakota legislature? Yes, they would probably rather do that too. That's why it's going to a vote of the people. So the people can say, this is what we want done. I'm going to give you there are three examples of, or we'll say three scenarios of how you can calculate that North Dakota truly is spending far more than it needs. Okay. If you look at since 2007, the percent of increase in spending for the state between 2007 2021, because the numbers always lag, these are federal numbers, and this is a federal website I'm getting these from. The percent increase for North Dakota spending during that time is double the average of the increase in spending of all the other states. Now, what does that translate to for a number? If we doubled, and let's say we would have been smarter and more conservative, and so we would have been, let's just say we increased an average amount, average of all the other states, including Texas and California and New York and New Jersey. If we would have cut our spending, the increase in spending by half, that would be over $2 billion less per year. Remember, to replace property taxes, $1 billion per year. So a person could say, that's too convoluted. Other states are different. Okay, let's look at North Dakota versus South Dakota. In 2009, North Dakota and South Dakota spent roughly the same, within $35 to $50 million. Okay, what happened from 2009, where we started really getting oil coming in and South Dakota didn't? We started spending like crazy. South Dakota's increase in spending was actually a little bit above the average of the nation. So it's not like they were, hardcore, frugal, austere citizens. They spent a normal amount. If we would have increased our spending according to roughly what South Dakota did, we would be spending over $2 billion less per year than we are now. The same figure as when we compare to all 50 states. We only need half of that to replace property tax. Let's go to a third way of looking at this. You go back to 2009, I think, and you say, you know what? I think 2009 we were spending the right amount. We were spending the right amount. Everything was good. And we don't need to go crazy. So let's start with 2009 and let's increase for inflation year after year after year. And we also recognize that we had a population increase. So let's not only increase our spending for inflation, let's increase it for every person that moves into the state. If you look at what that amount is versus what we were spending, I'll give you a guess, Shiloh. It is a little over $2 billion per year than what we should be spending. So I don't know, when you talk to the big spending legislators, they're like, oh, we're going to have to raise taxes. Well, yeah, if you're a progressive big spender, of course you would think that. But there is an abundance of proof, of data, of facts out there that say otherwise. And so the direct answer to your question, which is the number one question for everyone, where do we get it? We already have it. By doing this, we force the legislature to say, crap. We have to stop with the gimmies for all the private businesses. We have to stop with the wish lists for every agency that comes through. I've got a good story on.
That's what I was getting at. I was trying to,
Yeah.
yeah, should have probably rephrased the question a little bit
No,
differently, but yeah, I wanted you to talk about the points of what we can do.
no,
So, at
it's
any
good.
rate,
You phrased it the right way because you got me fired up. So, um,
all right.
here here's an example. Um, I'm a physician, right? And I was at this local chapter, whatever, of the physician thing, medical. I don't know. I'm so not a part of that. But I went to this meeting and they were talking about the medical school and what they were going to the legislature with. And I think this was probably around 2013. And the dean at that time probably wasn't fully aware I was a legislator. I don't know, but he talked to the physicians, including myself, without really thinking about the politics of it. Probably they had 3 plans for the medical school. One plan was like the bare minimum, and believe me, having gone through it, we needed to do something with the medical school. That was a piece of crap. But they had the bare minimum of like, this is what we need to do to get it to what's needed. Then they had the second tier, and that was like, this would be really nice. This would be really great, and this would be really helpful. We could attract more students, yada yada yada. And then they had a third tier, and that was like their crazy wish list. They never hoped for it, but they just threw it out there. You know what the legislature did? They gave them
They got
up
it.
tier because there was so much money. Every
Mm-hmm.
agency that wants something gets it because there's enough money. And if you look at the end of this session, I don't have it from firsthand knowledge, we'll say, but the omnibus bill, which is the last, the OMB bill, which is the last bill of the session, it's a spending bill.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is they realized when the later in March, when the new forecasts came out, they realized that they were going to have a lot more money than they thought. And so instead of rushing to figure out how to give more of a tax break to citizens, what they did is they piled on 70 some amendments. Again, I haven't verified this myself, but I know there was a ton of amendments they added on of spending, all more spending, more spending, more spending. They added on a ton of more spending. They were so excited because they realized, hey, we're going to have more money to spend. And they talk about, oh, the biggest tax increase in the history of North Dakota. Doug Burgum likes to say that. Well, the property tax relief that they gave, number one, you have to go file a form for it and ask for it, or you don't get it. So you still have to pay it, and then you can ask for a form, and you'll get $500 back. And you can do that for 2 years, and then it's done. That's it. So, as an example, with the legislature's plan, you get over the course of the life of their plan, which is 2 years, you can save $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into a hypothetical of the plan for this measure if it passes. Let's say that in 2024 you pay $4,000 in property taxes for your house.
Yep.
About 5 years later, you're probably going to be having to pay about $4,800 in taxes. Taxes always go.
Yep.
You might say, oh, I'll be lucky if that's all I have to pay. But let's say it's about $4,800.
Rick,
With
I
our,
think I know where you're going with this. Can I put that graphic up?
yeah, sure.
You mind? Do you mind?
No,
Okay.
do what you like, man.
Sure. Go ahead. Keep talking, and
Okay.
I'll put it up.
So if you've got $4,000, and let's say those property taxes will go up to $4,800 in about 5 years, that's what you're going to be stuck with. You will pay $4,800 out of your pocket in 5 years. If this measure goes through, yeah, there you go. If this measure goes through, the state is going to be paying the $4,000 that you're paying in 2024. And they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
paying for it in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. That's what? $20,000.
Yep.
$20,000 in those 5 years in your pocket. Now,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and then someone say, well, where's the other 800 come from? Well, that's what your city's going to need to increase by fees and assessments and taxes. But again, a person might say, well, I don't want those taxes. Well, dude, you can either pay $800 5 years down the road in fees, or you can pay $4,800 in property taxes. Which one is better? I think the $800 in fees and $4,000 year after year after year in your pocket, so that you can, I don't know, send your kid to private school, go on a vacation, fix your teeth. I mean, whatever it is, build a shed. I don't know, but you can do something cool for your family every single year.
Yep.
It's nuts. It
Yeah.
is such a win for North Dakota. And by the way, that takes me to another topic. Every single person in North Dakota will benefit. Renters will benefit. I got into a mild debate at the 4th of July parade with someone who was only going to sign if it was for, well, this is slightly different. He didn't want corporations to have it. So this is for residential and corporate and commercial and agriculture. He didn't want commercial to get a break. And I said, well, um, this is going to help mom and pop businesses,
Yeah.
help them survive, because their rent is one of the biggest costs they have. And he said, well, they don't pay property tax. Well, a lot of leases they do actually directly pay. They're called triple net, and they do pay the property tax.
Mhm.
But for the ones that are gross rent, which is more like an apartment renter, they just pay a flat fee. So a person might say, well, they're not paying property tax. But you and I know they are. The property tax from the landlord is built into the price of the rent. So that's
Mhm.
where I was going with if you're renting an apartment, you will see a benefit. Now, I'm not going to say that your landlord, your apartment building owner is going to suddenly just dramatically drop your rent. But what's going to happen is in highly competitive markets, your rent will go down the next time you renew. At the very least, it won't increase the next time you renew, or the time after that, or the time after that. And there's an added benefit because your landlord is not paying as much in taxes. They have a better cash flow. They have the ability to make improvements to the grounds, to the property, to your apartment. And
Mhm.
maybe someone believes, well, my guy's a jerk, he's not going to. Well, okay, but all of his competitors are, and you have another option to go somewhere else if that's the story. So mom and pop businesses, apartment renters, agriculture, primary residence, everyone benefits.
Yeah, that's sounds good. Um, gonna kind of switch gears here a little bit because I know I seen the interview and I'm talking about the interview that Governor Burgum gave Meet the Press.
You make me spit out my wine.
I'm sorry,
Oh
but
my gosh.
um, man, he looked like a duck without water, didn't he? I just wanna I know what you posted on your page and that I just want to get your reaction, especially obviously you said he wouldn't do business with Trump, but what really got me was this, and I'm sitting there thinking, he goes, because he wants to be known by the company that he keeps, right?
Yeah.
What is the company that he keeps? Bill
You mean
Gates?
the frequent visitor to
Um,
pedophile island, Bill Gates? Yeah, him.
yeah,
Yep.
and some other people, you know, you can't help but wonder about these data centers going up. That Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary,
Yep.
uh, all the Chinese that we have in our state now that was invited by him, and some of our other politicians. We'll just leave it that
Yep.
at that. But what is your? How do you think his presidential campaign is doing right now?
Well, I think it's I think it's going bad. I think it's floundering, but I was thinking that there's something they had.
Mm.
He has so much money and his backers have so much money. I'm thinking they can hire anybody. They can hire the best political strategists in the world. And presumably they did. And presumably they have a better plan than what we are seeing. Do you know that
Yeah.
someone just sent me a thing? Burgum has, if you donate $1, well, first let me preface, he needs 40,000 contributors.
Yep.
40,000 individuals need to donate to his campaign if he's going, otherwise, he doesn't get on the debate stage. I donated $1, by the way. Um, I want to see him on the debate stage. But um, if
Oh,
if
man.
if you donate $1, they will send you. His campaign will send you a $20 gift certificate. They're paying you $19.
To send him $1.
It's it's
Oh
almost
my
it seems
goodness.
it's crazy. It's so unsavory, unseemly. It's not illegal, but it just is. It's crazy to me. Um, but here's the thing. So a lot of people think that I personally hate or dislike
Mm.
Doug, and I don't at all. I don't like his politics. I think they're horrible. I think they're bad for North Dakota. They're bad for the country. I also stopped playing nice with him when he started to go after conservatives in the primary of 2020.
Mhm.
Everyone knows it. I go after him like crazy. Like, it's like, look, if you're gonna, it's one thing to be bad at your job, but it's another thing when you go after the people that are good at theirs. And so then I started trying to take him down a few notches. He, I think, is performing so badly. And after watching that interview, Shiloh, I'm kind of actually feeling bad. I feel like I don't even want to go after him anymore, because it's just, I'm just almost feeling bad. That I think that interview was the nail in the coffin. He was so inconsistent. He didn't have good answers. He alienated all of the Trump voters. He alienated, if they watched and if they listened, he alienated all of the pro-life voters.
Yep.
How do you win? Now, I mean, I'm assuming he's not going to, win the presidency. So I'm just looking from the standpoint of the state of North Dakota too. How can he possibly hope to win a primary if he runs for governor again after exposing himself like that? Additionally, he's so wishy-washy that even in Iowa and New Hampshire, I just think he lost it there. He was lost. I think his handlers probably, as they were watching that interview live, their hearts had to just drop, because
Mhm.
it bombed. I hate to see anyone bomb. I've been in those shoes where you're nervous, and I always go back and I think, I should have done this. I should have said this, and and he's
Right.
doing the same thing. So I don't wish him poorly. It's just my honest assessment, though, is that it was bad.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, and I just, I don't know if it's what it is, but and I kind of gave him honestly, I gave him a chance just because of the people that he has backing him, and like you said, the amount of money that he has at his disposal. But I don't know. But there again, there's so many people out there that eat that stuff up too. I mean, even in this state, I I was surprised at the amount of votes that he got and the support that he got, especially after people knew that he was going after some of these people,
Yeah.
like Magram and Sebastian and Culverson. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I mean, even you and your running mate, uh, Dawson, Holly, right?
Well,
That's his,
yeah, my Dawson's not my running mate, but but if you look at it, when he ran in 2016, people were sick of the Republican old guard, the country club Republicans,
hmm
and that was what Wayne Stenhjem represented. And Doug said he was gonna end the good old boys club. That's what people wanted. That was the Trump year. People were tired of it. Break things
Yep.
up, and the good old boys club. That's what Doug's words were. So he trounced Stenhjem. Then he comes back in 2020, and you have to, you can say, well, I can't believe people still voted for him. Well, he ran in the primary against Charles, right?
hmm
And Charles, I'm sorry, Coachman,
Yeah.
Michael, or yeah.
Yep.
So
Michael
ran in the
Cushman.
primary against Coachman, and Coachman may have been a perfectly fine candidate, but he had no campaign.
hmm
Uh, I mean, in our bubble, he was known, but not to 90% of North Dakotans.
Right.
And so, to those 90% of North Dakotans, Doug wasn't running against anybody. So he handily won the primary. I mean, it shows that the discontent of the Republican primary voters, that Coachman got as much as he did. I mean, kudos to him, because for almost spending no money, no previous name recognition. Again, I'm not in our bubble in the state. He did extremely well. But for the big part of the state, Doug almost, wasn't running against anybody in the primary, and then of course the Republican's going to win in the general. So, you know, that's the way it is. And then of course in North Dakota, the Democrats cross over and vote for the least conservative Republican, which Shiloh, I got to tell you, I don't know. They are so stupid. I've actually talked to the leadership in the Democrat Party about this. I understand the short-term benefit, the short-term gratification they get by helping decide elections so that a more moderate, a more Democrat-like Republican wins,
Mhm.
what that's so short term. They've moved their whole party into oblivion, into they're just not a component that you think about in politics. They don't matter. And if instead, if they were smart and if they were going to cross over, they would actually vote for the most conservative candidate, for the most outspoken, the most red, the most extreme conservative candidate. When they're voting for people like John Hoeven and Doug Burgum, there's almost no difference between a Democrat and a Republican like that. So how can
Mhm.
their party get traction? Let's say they voted for you or me or someone like that. Now here there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. Now someone can say, you know what? I don't like that guy's politics. I'm going to vote Democrat. And now you can't say that. You're going to what? You don't like Doug Burgum's politics. You're going to vote for someone else who is exactly the same as Doug Burgum but has a D behind his name. Why bother?
Yeah.
That's what they
True
don't.
enough. True enough. So, let's move on a little bit here. The North Dakota GOP. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that, especially being out of the 5 seats. I think there was only one that wasn't decided by one vote.
Yep.
That
Well,
was that was a real dogfight there. So, what do you uh, what do you hope to see out of our new leadership in the GOP, the North Dakota GOP?
I hope we're going to see an about face. Um, I don't. So here's what I mean by that. What was happening before was again what I refer to as the country club mentality.
Hmm.
That more than anything, more than protecting principle, more than protecting your platform, you protect your club. And that's what they were all about. They put up fences, they put up obstacles for anyone who would dare challenge. I am hoping that the new folks that come in, and they already are, by the way. I'm right off the top of my head, it's escaping me. What they've done is they've reversed some of the things that
Yeah,
that if they left in place would be helpful to them in retaining power. But they've taken those obstacles down, making it easier for their opposition to regain power. But it's the right thing to do because this is supposed to be about a fight on principles, not who can stay in their comfy country club position. And it really is a club for these guys. So that's number one. I hope to see that. Number two, I think, and I haven't talked to Sandy directly about this at all, um, there is going to be a natural tendency to want to prove that you're not extreme, that you're not extreme right, that you don't have a vendetta against the establishment, that you don't blah, 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 blah. I'm hoping that she and the rest of the elected people don't bend over so far backwards. Elections have consequences. They shouldn't be rubbing the establishment's nose in it. That's not what I'm saying. But people
principled.
behind people behind the scenes, tremendous grassroots efforts over 10 years made this happen. The people that were elected did not make this happen alone. Not
Yeah.
even close. They walked into a situation. Now they worked and they deserved it, but they walked into a situation that was already made optimal, that with additional work and time and effort could actually occur. Whereas 8 years ago, these same people could have done the same amount of work, it never would have happened. So they now hold the torch that so many people worked on for so long. And if they hand that torch over to show that they are good faith compromisers, not extreme, blah blah blah. That's probably the biggest thing I'm worried about. And of course, we could always say, well, we could lose the power again in 2 years, and we could, but it's really just a matter of what we do with it. I would say there's as much or more risk of losing the power because the people that put you there are disappointed with what you've done than there is
Right.
that you actually do what you're supposed to do and other people, the old opposition comes back and retakes it.
I agree. As you know,
Oh, I lost you. I lost you. It says your thing shows you're muted. I'm gonna do a little jazz dance for everyone here. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. Recite the Constitution. Oh, there you go.
I don't know what happened there. Just went blank. They must
Yeah.
not like me or something. So yeah, you went blank too when you did that. I couldn't hear you either. Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna go and speak at the Lindell event here in August.
Good.
And that's one of the things that I'm gonna bring up is turning over the North Dakota GOP and how the grassroots worked at that. And like you said, it's been years in the making. But the one thing that I would like to stress is how important your vote really is, because again, 4 out of the 5 seats was won by one vote.
Yep.
And you're talking about a 10-year deal. Now, I didn't realize that. I've only been involved for 3 or going on 4 years now. So I didn't realize that it had been taken this long. So kudos to all of you who've done this fight that long. So, but I think people need to realize that we need to be engaged still, and that your vote really does count.
Yep, absolutely. And just to clarify, because I don't think you took it this way, but I'm not saying that I was largely responsible for what happened. It's other people that were right. It's other people that were working, other conservative. Yeah. Every vote does count. I mean, can you imagine one vote difference? We would have been this close,
Yep.
and would have missed it. And we don't know what's going to happen. We might have missed that opportunity for another 10 or 20 years.
Yep.
It's so fragile. That's why people need to be involved all the time. And just when you think, well, it doesn't matter anymore, it does.
Yep. It certainly does. I get frustrated sometimes when people some of the answers is, well, God has a plan. It's all going to work out. Well, yes and no, but you still got to do the work, right? You still got to do your part.
Right.
And I think that people kind of get lax on that. And I hope that, that people, how do I say this without?
That's a lazy man's Christianity.
Right.
God gave you a brain and a heart and 2 hands for a reason.
Yep. And you're supposed to do the work. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of us that haven't. Like I said, I'm 43. I just really got involved 4 years ago. So, at any rate, that's how it is.
Hey,
so
I was, what the heck was I? I got involved 2010, so 13 years ago. So yeah, I was probably 45.
Yeah.
So, it's never too late.
That's right. So, well, I really appreciate you being on this evening. Is there anything else that you would like to say about property taxes before we?
Well, not really. I would say the one thing is just to really ask for people to consider whether this is something that would benefit them and their families, their loved ones, their neighbors, their friends. And I think the answer is yes. And if that's the case, I would ask that they consider taking the time to go out and get signatures. If they can't get signatures, to make a donation. Again, the website will be up soon. It's endpropertytax.com.
Okay.
But in some manner, this takes everyone listening here, everyone. We need to work together, or it's not going to happen. No other state in the nation, no other developed country in the world has no property tax. Texas is working on it. I'm hoping that we beat them to be the first place in the world with no property tax.
So if someone is interested in passing a petition out, let's say it's somebody that they're listening to this and they're saying, hey, you know what? Here's my chance to get involved. I don't know much about it. Is there someone that they can talk to get educated on it, to be able to answer questions?
Right. So
Where do people go?
if someone will, so you can contact me directly. You can go to Facebook, End Property Tax is the site on Facebook. The website, as I said, will be up in a week, maybe two tops, and that is endpropertytax.com. All these very simple things. So if you reach out to me via Facebook on Dr. Rick Becker or End Property Tax, and let me know you want to do petitions, I will send you out a sheet on rules for petitioners, because no one wants to get in trouble, and we all want this to succeed, and you don't want your work to go to waste.
Right.
The petition itself, which is an 8-page petition, 3 of the pages are for signatures, and a sheet of basic answers. There's 8 questions, 8 of the most basic questions, and then the answers that go with them. When we have the website up and running, there's about 30, 35 additional questions that will all have the answers associated with them. You will find that do not let the concern that you don't have all the answers stop you from getting signatures.
Okay.
Of the 10 people that you could get signatures from, 1 maybe will hesitate because you don't have the answer. Great, get the other 9, tell the 10th person to contact me or to go to Facebook or to go to our website, and then get the answer there. You can still get the other 9.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I'd certainly like to have you on again as this proceeds, and we'll get some updates and go from there. And so we got a whole year to do this, and I would definitely like to be involved as well. I'll talk with you more off camera about that. But
Yep.
yeah, as far as doing this, I definitely would like to have you back as, and often as you want, and we can give updates, even if it's for 5 minutes or whatever. So
Sure.
to keep people informed and engaged, and so.
Sounds great.
But
Sounds great.
I really appreciate your time, Rick, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Shiloh.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. There you have it, Rick. He's always been great to have on. He's very knowledgeable on a lot of different things, and I always appreciate his time, and we can have him on. So, like I said earlier, I am going to be going down to the Mike Lindell event in Springfield, Missouri in August, and I'm going to be speaking on the behalf of North Dakota on what we've done as far as our elections and what we're working on with Dr. Frank's team, as well as the grassroots taking over, flipping the North Dakota GOP again for more conservative candidates, which I believe is very, very important and a good thing. I know, as Rick has said, it was 10 years in the making. Excuse me. So I'm going to play a short video here about the Lindell event, and then we'll sign off. So just a second here.
Today, I address you not only as a citizen of the United States, but as an American, standing for all humanity. We are faced with the gravest of challenges. For the first time in the history of our nation, technology has been activated that attacks our Constitution with the capacity to destroy our future.
Absolute proof of the biggest cyber attack in history. It's a takeover of our country.
We must remove voting machines and any electronic devices from all elections forever. All of you praying with us need to know we have the tools and evidence to prevent catastrophic results, and we can secure our freedom. Everything that can be done to prevent this disaster is being called into service. The human drive for excellence, knowledge. Every step of the ladder of experience has been taken to expose the truth.
Let's take their country. How are we going to do it? Let's use it with computers so we don't even have to fire a shot.
Data experts have worked countless hours to bring forth the truth to the American people. This is a war on national security. This is a war between good and evil. This is a war that will affect what our country becomes.
I just want to know everyone out there, all the evil that's out there, we are never quitting till we get to the truth, ever.
Through all the chaos that is our history, through all of the wrongs and discord, through all the pain and suffering, through all our times, there is one thing that has nourished and elevated our souls, and that is our faith in God and courage. We must be brave.
And I encourage you to use this time at home to get back in the Word, read our Bibles, and spend time with our families. We will get through this and get back to a place that's stronger and safer than ever.
Elections have consequences. These selections are transforming the spirit of our country. The focus of the entire nation must be on this event.
God gave me a platform for a voice for such a time as this.
We as a people must stand for the American dream. One nation under God, for liberty and justice for all.
If the election of 2020 didn't happen, we would never, ever, ever have gotten to this great place we're going to get to. Trust me on that. Ever. This was all God's plan, and we are in the greatest revival for Jesus in history. God bless you all.
Again, that's the 16th and 17th. It's going to be down there in Missouri. I'm going to be going down there to speak both nights. I don't know exactly when. I don't have all the details, but at any rate, it's something that I look forward to doing. I'm very honored to be asked, and so I will be giving more updates on that as that gets closer and where you guys can view it, because it is going to be telecast as well. So with that, I wish you guys a good night. God bless you all in your homes, and we will see you next week. I have Donna Hollingsworth again and Kit Brennan. We're going to continue our discussion from last week, as well as a few more issues concerning the data centers up there by where Kit is, as well as the one here in Williston. And we're also going to be talking about the Josh Gallion event the next day on the 18th in Williston. Josh will be in Williston at the Williston Arc to answer any questions that anybody may have. So with that, happy trails, and we will see you next week.